Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Defiance event. My name is Natalie Sanandaji, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer at the Combat Anti-Semitism movement. I'm also an Iranian American Jew and a survivor of the Nova Music Festival, an attack on October 7th, which was carried out by Hamas, one of the many proxies of the Islamic regime of Iran. This tragic experience fueled my drive to amplify the voices of those who fight for freedom, especially within the Iranian community. And today I'm honored to host this event where art and activism are coming together. We're joined by a remarkable group of artists who are using their creative talents to resist oppressive regimes and support the struggle for freedom. Art has always been a powerful vehicle for change, whether it's music, visual art, film, or digital media. It allows us to express our deepest parts of ourselves and challenge the narrative of oppression. So let's get started. Azadeh Nikzadeh is an Iranian-born writer, director, and producer whose works amplify unheard voices, particularly those of Iranian women. Through storytelling, she addresses human rights and women's empowerment, challenging cultural and political oppression. Azadeh's recent project, The Deviance Prelude, has gained attention for its unique narrative blending Persian and American cultures. Azadeh, thank you so much for joining us today. Storytelling has always been a powerful meaning of expression for resistance. In your work, how do you use film and storytelling to challenge oppression, and how do you hope your stories inspire and stand up for freedom?
Yes. Thank you so much first. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to talk about that. I want to talk about art as art of design and defiance and art as and creativity that fuels the fight for freedom in Iran. I think it's becoming more and more important um, in the fight for Iranians. And it's something that I personally felt and lived deeply as as an Iranian artist. So for me, art is this incredible weapon against oppression. And I grew up in Iran, and I know that life can be suffocating, especially for women. For those of your audience who might not know, women in Iran, we're told what to wear, what we can do, what we cannot do. But here's the thing: the people in Iran, they just don't sit back and take it. So in our country, in our society right now, defiance happens in two forms. One shows up like in a small personal way, and the other one is in a big collective way. And art, has become this thread that ties them together. Like imagine, like I was a kid in the 80s, and for anyone who knows, 80s is probably the darkest, roughest time in the recent history of Iran. There was war that was raging, and then the regime was cracking down hard on dissident and opponents. And for women, it was even worse, to the point that I can tell you that women were not even allowed to play musical instruments. But and I remember that, like, if, for example, you were carrying a musical instrument like a guitar down the street, you could get punished for that. But I also remember that women taking this risk, tiny risk, carrying the musical instrument, keep going to classes, and things, tiny things like that. They push the limits a little by little every day, and over time, we arrived to this situation that playing a musical instrument is not a shock for women. And right now, what we have is like singing, women singing in public, women having concerts. It's right now off the limits. And, and we have these fearless women that say, no way, I'm doing it anyway. They remove their mandatory scarf, and they wear whatever they want, and they even like performing concerts and knowing that they get arrested. But the important thing is that their courage of standing up for what they believe lights a fire in others. And that is what I love about art. It starts with one person being brave, and then it spreads. Like even if it's a musician that plays, or as when they're not supposed to, or like a writer writing something, or these things becomes like ripples, and eventually the ripples turn into a wave of change. And that's what I've seen, like in Iran. When I was in Iran, I've seen it, and I deeply believe in it. And then we have, it's something that happens inside Iran as we're talking. It's been like when I was there in the 80s and 90s, and now here in the USA. And it's like as a diaspora right now, all of us, when I came here, it was like it hit me that I had freedom, because like I grew up under censorship, under severe control, and like lack of information, to be honest. And then when I came here, it was like, wow, that wow moment, that like, oh wow, I'm free, I have freedom. And then with freedom, especially as an artist, comes responsibility. Um, so it's because it's so personal for me, because I lived it. It's kind of like a duty for me to shine a light on what Iranian women are fighting for. And for me, that's through art. And art for me is art of storytelling in general, and also through films, and also through connecting to my Persian roots. I think that's something that also is cracked down by the Iranian regime. Like they want us to forget who we truly are. And I've seen it. You mentioned the Deviance Prelude. It's a short film. It's a musical and a dance piece that connects like Persian and American, Armenian dance styles, and using dance as a symbol, as a symbolic tool to fight oppression, and pushing back against like oppressors. And these women, they connect together, and through like I call it collective hoofbeats, or collective stomping, they open ways toward freedom, and toward like a beautiful revolution that brings freedom to them in my film. And it's kind of like something that I experience, that collective change, that collective ripple, and also something that I truly hope happens very soon in Iran. And something that was very powerful to see. We pitched it like a few days ago. It was just a few days ago, and something that blew me away was how my American audiences, they get it. It comes from Iran. It comes from a place that, far from them, and the dances and the movement, it might be something that they're not familiar with, but they were able to connect to the message, to the story, to the women. So I think that's also another beautiful aspect of art, because it's, I tell, this is like my story, or I'm telling those women's stories. And we turn these stories into something that is human, something that anyone can feel. And it is how, we can build bridges, and we can open hearts, we can open minds, no matter where we're from. And I think that's something, that's how art, storytelling, films can work. And
You
thank you.
know, as a day, I even remember when I first met you, when I first had the honor, we sat down and we got coffee, and you sent me a short film that you worked on. And through this film, it was maybe what, like 5 or 6 minutes long. You told such an intense and important story, and you showed me a side of Iran that I didn't even know. You showed me the type of pain that the women in Iran are going through. And through that, I've shared that story with so many people. There's so many people in the world who don't know what the women in Iran are going through. They don't know that for some of them, their only option for making money is this type of kind of a form of prostitution, and it's another side of the oppression by the regime on the Iranian woman. And it's so important to shed light on that. It's so important to share those stories because the women within Iran can't do it for themselves. So you're really, what you're doing is so incredible. You're really a voice for these women. And you know, you, similar to me, the fact that I survived, I felt like I needed to be a voice for those who don't have a voice. You're doing the same. The fact that you managed to get out and you now have these freedoms, you're using your freedom to be a voice for those women in Iran who don't currently have a voice. And it's really amazing what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of this with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate that, and it's kind of it's heartwarming for me to talk to someone like you because you understand our pain. Really, like sometimes Americans, they know the word oppression, they know the word apartheid or gender-based apartheid, but they don't have any image. They've never experienced that. And so I have to like really, when I talk to them and mention these words, I have to like bring examples. Or when
Mhm,
we talk about gender-based apartheid, it means that there are laws in place that prevents you from doing certain things. For example, I always bring the like work situation. If you apply for a job in Iran, regardless of your resume, regardless of your experience and education, there are laws in place that tells mandates the recruiters to hire men, not women. So a man can get a job with a diploma, and a woman cannot get a job with a PhD. So that's the difference. So that makes it like so you're always losing to a man, and that's what happens. And I have to say that because they don't really understand, and I think like these sort of
yeah.
films showing through storytelling, through something that is so tangible for them,
Mhm,
hopefully they are able to understand. And generally people are very good, they want to connect, they want to help, they want to support, they just don't know. That's why I like continue doing that and like try to connect to my American audiences. I'd like really like to tell the stories that comes from Iran, but targets American audiences. And it's
mhm.
been something like it's not easy, to be honest. It's been something that I'm working on, like finding that language, how to tell the storytelling that's so specific but also so universal. And hopefully with the Deviance is a project for me that's like, okay, maybe that's it. And I have high hopes for it. And thank you for mentioning it.
Thank you. And we'll also include obviously your information so people can reach out to you. People can view it once it's viewable to public audiences. And you're really doing amazing work. So thank you, Azadeh.
Thank you.
Um, Next, we have Ashley Zara, who is an Iranian global pop artist from Los Angeles, California. She was born to Iranian Judean refugees who escaped during the Islamic Revolution. Her multicultural and gender blending music represents the sound of the Iranian American, similar to me, an Iranian American, relaying stories of the human condition that transcend generations just as much as they do international borders. Ashley uses her platform to represent the people, particularly the women of Iran and the Middle East. Ashley, we're thrilled to have you today. Music has always been used to express emotions of all kinds, whether it be happiness, anger, sadness, frustration. How do you use your music to express your feelings towards the current state of the Iranian people, and how have you seen it kind of inspire others?
Hi, Natalie. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much at Combat Anti-Semitism Movement for having me. Um, it's I resonate so much with things that Azadeh said, but I am someone who was born and raised here in the States, and yet I've felt the Islamic Republic's oppression on art, on me even in the US. Like you're so limited on a global scale by this regime. Um, and it's interesting, very also similar to what Azadeh said. every single person is a source of light. Every single person is really a source of life. And that's something that is contagious and irresistible. Like there's this kind of chicken or the egg saying in the art world that, life imitating art or art imitating life, meaning that it's so intertwined that each person in their uniqueness is truly a work of art and their story is art. So if art is criminal in a society, then that is pretty much saying that life is criminal. Life becomes the crime. And for instance, like all Iranians want to do is live, to dance, to sing, story tell, and to create. And that's such an important part of being human. Like we're beings that just naturally emote and create. So when that instinct is stifled, it builds up a lot of rage that in turn actually inspires more art and more creation, and therefore more life, more defiance. So as a musician watching all of this happen, it's funny, right before the Zan Zendegi Azadi movement, I actually made a choice to release something that for me was very terrifying. So prior to this release, I was making sure to cater to the limitations that the Islamic Republic would put on art and on women um, in music or just in the public, because I wanted to be able to reach women and to reach people in Iran. And I felt like if I broke those rules, then I would be censored and they wouldn't find me. They wouldn't see representation outside of Iran and people on a global scale like supporting them and seeing them. Then I decided, I feel so as a woman, as a Jewish person, as an Iranian, I felt incredibly misunderstood and found that whenever we do try to speak about our reality and our identity, we people either have like a blank look on their face, like they're so shocked they don't understand, or we get silenced by someone else. And I just had this burning frustration that just wanted to be heard, wanted to be seen. And I knew other women, other Jewish people, other Iranians must feel the same way no matter where they are in the world. And they felt misrepresented, felt misunderstood, but I didn't see many people coming out to challenge that and to change that. I think because of also a similar fear that I started with of I don't want to be completely erased, right? Like I'll be erased a little bit and I'll take that and use what I can. Um, but unfortunately, I have this kind of superpower slash fatal flaw that I will just throw myself on the fire and risk it all for the sake of change and for other people. And just to really break the norm and do something that is honest, which both shocks people, but also similar to what Azadeh said, it unites them as well. So like every time I've released art, I'm like terrified that it will tear people away from me because I think maybe I pushed the button too much this time. I pushed it too far. Because things are supposed to be uncomfortable in life, and art is this weird medium that we take really uncomfortable, challenging things through a more comfortable, engaging way to process those things. But you get worried. You're like, sometimes maybe I pushed it too far. And it's everyone is so sensitive about everything too. It's hard to sit down with people and go through the process and the meaning without people's ego coming in and wanting to reject it. I mean, a lot of people want to maintain a status quo, not even because it benefits them, but it's because it's what they know. It's a comfort to them. So when someone challenges the status quo, which is a comfort zone, you get a reaction. And on the internet too, like you can get a global reaction. But that being said, every time I have released art that I'm scared to release, that is very challenging of a norm, um, I'm more surprised to see people applauding me and thanking me for my bravery to fight against that oppression, fight against the incorrect narratives. And they see my bravery to speak like an unpopular truth. It's not even an unpopular opinion, but an unpopular truth. And it emboldens others to be their authentic selves and to follow their gut, to do what they feel and know is right. Like, you don't get that type of energy, community, ripple effect without art. Because art is, again, it's life, it's human, it's a shared soul. So when one person is brave and inspired, that collective soul like becomes the same. It's so incredible. And if art is life, art is identity, art is unity, all these things, it's in a these are things that an oppressive regime is only powerful when they strip you from your joy, strip you from your identity, and make you feel alone and divided. And we've seen, like, in the Zan Zendegi Azadi movement, the Woman Life Freedom movement, the things that people were able to feel strengthened by and unified by were songs like Baraye and the many forms that it took, and schoolgirls singing it in class, people making rock covers of it around the world. Then the images of Massa and the calligraphy of Woman Life Freedom, Zan Zendegi Azadi, in so many languages, the images of cutting hair around the world. It's art that expressed what maybe words couldn't and connected people who otherwise would have felt very lonely, misunderstood, misrepresented. So, yeah, art is life, it's identity, it's unity, and it's strength. And when we have art, no oppressive regime, no matter how much they try, you can't destroy light, you can't destroy life. And that's a concept that I've grown up with both as a Jewish woman and as an Iranian woman. And I take very, very deep pride in. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Truly, I think it's so beautiful the way you're able to reconnect with your Iranian roots through your music. Because as all of us know, poetry was always such a big part of Iran's history. And I think it's so important to really show the world that the Iran that they see today is not the true Iran. The true Iran is an Iran full of culture and beautiful architecture and music and poetry and just all forms of art. And the Iranian people have always been very colorful, creative people. So I really think it's amazing that like you're able to reconnect to that, though you haven't been in Iran, similar to me, you weren't born in Iran. But through our art, it's really amazing how we're all able to connect with each other. And that brings us to our next artist, Human. Human Khalili is an Iranian American artist and activist, known for working with many forms of art, but more recently is known for his murals. His mission is to remind the world that the Persian and Jews have been friends for over 3,000 years. And over the past 2 years, Human has unveiled 18 murals within Israel in support of Iranian women who are fighting for their freedom. Human, it's amazing having you on today. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you. I feel outnumbered. No other men, huh? Just me. Praise the Lord. All right.
you should feel very special to be amongst all these powerful Iranian women.
I do. I
Um,
do.
but art, especially in public murals, can carry very powerful political messages. How do you use your murals to kind of challenge the oppressive regimes while also bringing people together? And how have you seen your art in action, kind of bringing the Iranian and the Jewish community together in this very difficult time?
Right. Well, just like everyone else, Azadeh, Ashley, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. So I feel like we need to take a step back. By the time, Masa Amini was murdered September of 2022. By the time my first mural went up in Jerusalem in January of 2023, there were already 40 or 50 murals in the world. I wasn't close to being the first one. And it's a really important point as you hear the journey. So this first mural that you're looking at here, this mural was unveiled in Jerusalem on January 9th, 2023. Now, this mural has Masa Amini, Serena, Fereshte, and Nika. Nika and Serena were 15 years old, and Masa and Fereshte were roughly around 20. So these four women were all killed And it's basically, this whole war seems to be about hair. You know, they're killing the women for showing their hair. So in this picture, you'll see we united them with their hair. The reason this image is such a big deal is because it's the first mural in the Middle East with a woman's hair showing in support of the women of Iran. And when you think about Israel, especially when you think about Jerusalem, right? Jerusalem, destroyed and rebuilt 39 times, the most contested city in the whole world. The Jews claim it, the Christians claim it, the Muslims claim it. And there it is. There's a mural in the holy city that everyone claims. So on that one day, January 9th, 2023, the whole world loved Israel for that one day. I had messages from Arab women. I had people calling me from all around the world, and this was their exact sentiment. I used to hate Israel. I used to hate the Jews. Now I love Israel. I love the Jews. That girl on that mural, that's my cousin. I heard this over and over again. So the second mural here that you're looking at now is in Nazareth. And Nazareth is a very unique city. For those of us who know the Bible, it's Jesus's hometown. It's where he lived from the age of 4 to 29. And Nazareth is entirely Arab. And the great thing about this mural, of the 18 murals, if someone was to say to me, who's your favorite child? Who's your favorite baby? It's this one here. And the reason is because the wall is owned by 2 Muslim men, designed by a Persian Christian, painted by a Russian Jew. I mean, that's all of us coming together. In Nazareth, of all places. There's a verse in the Bible that says, can anything good ever come out of Nazareth? Yes, this mural. And it was on this mural, if you go to the next slide, where you'll see the phrase, it's time for the Esthers of the world to rise up. Now, I'm going to give you a quick Bible lesson. There was a moment in the Jewish Bible, the Old Testament, where the Jews were exiled. There was a king named Nebuchadnezzar, and he took them from Israel to Babylon, which is now Iraq. And then a new king was born. The king of kings at the time was Xerxes. And he took the Jews that Nebuchadnezzar took to Iraq, he took them to Iran. And so you have one book in the Bible which takes place in Iran, and it's the book of Esther, right? So in Iran, you know, Azadeh alluded to this, Ashley alluded to this. In Iran, you have real life women superheroes. In America, all of our books, all of our television shows, all of our films are what? About women superheroes. But now we have real life women superheroes, no one's talking about it. 90% of our world news is Gaza. 10% of our world news is Ukraine. 0% of our world news is Iran. So this is a problem. So all of us, and hopefully everyone will say this, the reason we're doing this is to get the eyes of the world on Iran. You know, the #1 sponsor of terrorism for the whole world. This is why we're doing this. So Esther's to remind the world, in Iran, you have the first woman-led revolution. You have your women superheroes. After October 8th happened, I had a Persian Jewish woman in LA call me. Her name is Ophelia, and I had another Persian Jewish woman in Israel call me named Orly, and they both called to tell me the same thing. 2 of the women Hamas killed on October 7th were Persian Jews, Sherelle Haimpour and Sahar Soidan. Now, one more quick Bible lesson. In the Bible, there's this theme. And the theme is God says over and over, I'm going to put my throne in Zion. I'm going to put my throne in Jerusalem. I'm going to put my throne in Israel. You see this over and over again. But then there's this one obscure verse, and I think it was Ashley who just said it, which was, you know, I'm nervous doing this. And the truth is, I haven't heard everyone talk, but we're all nervous doing this. Every single one of us is nervous. This is hard to do. But it's really, really hard to make a mural of these women who have died and put Bible verses on the murals to remind the world of the biblical relationship between the Persians and the Jews, because these murals are in Israel. They're in Israel. So there's this one obscure verse, Jeremiah 49:38. And Jeremiah 49:38 says, God says, I will set my throne in Elam, and destroy her king and officials. Well, Elam is the ancient name of Iran. It was first Elam, then Iran, then Persia, then Iran again. That's the order. So there's something very special here. And so with this eighth mural that you're looking at now, you've got Sharel Haimpor, you have Masa Amini. Both their faces are a mosaic. Inside Masa Amini's face is the face of 1,500 Iranians who have either been murdered or put in prison. And inside Sharel Haimpor's face are all the faces of all the victims of October 7th. And next to their heads is God saying he's going to put his throne in Jerusalem and he's going to set his throne in Elam. So I do now after I did 4 murals in Israel. Now listen, just a quick reminder, I was number 50 or 55. I wasn't first. The Islamic regime really didn't seem to care at all about the murals in the US or Canada or Australia or Europe. But all of a sudden, the Islamic regime felt compelled to make a mural after I put 4 murals in Israel. And if you see here, they made a mural of an atomic bomb. And on that atomic bomb, they wrote in Hebrew, 400 seconds to Tel Aviv. So the art got a reaction. It got a reaction from the Islamic regime. So now that mission's over. And I know, Natalie, your next question is going to be, what's next, Human? So I'll just tell you. I'm going to put 18 murals on 18 college campuses in the United States. And thank you. So here's what I need prayers for. So far, 6 universities have said no. They said yes in the morning, and when the sun set, they said no. They all got scared. So I'm going to fly to Houston on Tuesday. There's a very prominent university in Houston that hasn't said yes. They haven't said no. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to hope and pray that I'm able to compel them to say yes. And my hope is to unveil this mural on either April 23rd or April 24th. Why? Because that is Holocaust Remembrance Day. And the reason I want to put it there is because on the murals, I put the 2 Persian Jews killed by Hamas on October 7th. I put them on the murals. And I want to show the world what was happening then is happening now. And I have no competition on Holocaust Remembrance Day. Almost virtually nobody memorializes it or talks about it. I guess so now we can actually point to that date and we can point to this mural and we can say, we Persians have been the friends of the Jews for 3,000 years, and we are going to rebuild that friendship. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Human. Oh my gosh. I truly, everything you're doing is so incredible. And I think especially for me, you know, as an Iranian Jew growing up in America, my whole life, when I would tell people I'm Iranian and my mother's Israeli, the first question I would get asked is, what is it like to be from 2 countries who hate each other? Oh, so are you mixed religion, Jewish and Muslim? And people could not understand the connection that the Jews and the Persians have had for thousands of years. They don't know and they don't see it. And with art like yours that is so public, I hope it really teaches more people about the history that we have together and that we're fighting the same fight and that we have the same enemy and that we love each other and that we're really in this together. So thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing to show the world that we are one and that we are united. And now, and also I wish you the best of luck in everything you're doing in your next murals. I hope this next mural happens and that I get to be there to see it unveiled. I'm praying for you every day. So thank you, Human.
Thank you so much.
Alexa Tubian is also a singer and songwriter who uses her music to challenge societal norms and break down cultural barriers.
Bombs keep blowing, guns keep going. I can't find myself, I feel lost.
By using her voice quite literally, Alexa is able to amplify videos and spark conversation about her freedom and identity. Alexa, it's an honor to have you on today. Music has become a very significant tool in resistance movements, and even within Iran, we see women using their voice to try to resist the regime that tells them that they can't. How do you use your songwriting to express defiance against cultural and political oppression? And how do you see it resonating with those who are silenced?
First off, I would like to say thank you, Natalie, for reaching out and Combat Anti-Semitism for having me here today. It is truly an honor, especially to be able to show a younger side of voices like you and everyone to speak about the importance of art and defiance. And I just want to say that I believe that every person is an artist and a creator, and we have the ability to always create. And with that, I believe that art is the greatest rebel because it challenges the truth of a reality that people neglect to face every day. And art is powerful because it connects people on not just an emotional level, but an intellectual level. Being Jewish and first generation Iranian American like you has had its challenges as well. Many people try to silence our voices, and we have shown time and time again that through it, whether it's through music, singing, dancing. I mean, the biggest line that we said after October 7th was, "We will dance again." And there has never been so much art and defiance against Hamas and being Jewish that has stopped since then. And it shows in Iran as well. I mean, for me, what really broke that barrier of the power of being a Jewish woman was seeing the TikTok videos of women ripping off the scarves from their heads in Iran and dancing. And for me, like immediately, I was dancing and reacting to their videos right alongside of them. Resistance isn't always loud. Sometimes it's something that can be a quiet persistence, but it offers hope and inspires change, and it fosters solidarity. For me, growing up, music in my life has been from the moment I was born. The first time I kicked was with Persian music, and it was my first language and my first voice. My grandma used to sing to me "Mikham Beram Ku" growing up, and I think that is the biggest song of defiance and art because it symbolizes an escape. The mountains represented a refusal to conform and a desire to break free from what society offers. It creates emotional expression in the face of repression. It channels deep emotions, allowing individuals to voice resistance when direct speech is silenced. And that's exactly what I have been doing through seeing our people, not just Iranian Jews, but Jews in general. I started songwriting again because I felt our voices were being silenced, and I wrote a song upside down because of what was happening. And I had put it to the side for a while, but after October 7th, I realized that this fight is really real. And so there's a line that I don't keep me moving forward, but other people. The lines go, "Don't lose faith, don't lose hope, keep on moving forward, even though it's a lonely road," which I think is the epitome of who we are. It's like, even if, we have to do this alone, we're still going to do it. We are going to accomplish what we want to do. And another line is, "When I fight, I know I'll make it. This world's manipulated. I refuse to drown. It's all upside down." So I think that's the epitome of women in Iran. They tell themselves that one day, like, we'll go back to the way it was. From the stories I've heard from my grandparents and my mother, Iran, they used to have this freedom, this beauty. I was like, I want to go there one day. It's this beautiful place that's also home to us. And one day we hopefully will be able to go back and show them who we are and how far we've come. But until then, I think we have this art that reminds us that no matter how restrictive a system may be, that creativity is boundless, and that's a voice that they can't take away from us. And that itself is an act of defiance.
I think you made a really good point in regards to, calling Iran home for so long and the fact that it's also our home. I think I try to explain to a lot of people that Jews from all over the world, everywhere they were, they had to constantly flee because of persecution. But the Jews that were within Persia, which is now Iran, stayed there for so many years and lived there peacefully and happily for so many years. And I think we're the only, from what I see, the only part of the Jewish diaspora that really yearns to go back to where they came from. Like, I don't really see as much like Syrian Jews or Iraqi Jews, you know, kind of yearning to see their country free again so they can go back. But when it comes to Persian Jews, I see that yearning, that wants, because Iran is such a beautiful place, and it's a place that we called home for so many years, and it really is connected to us, I feel like, just as much as Israel is. And I appreciate the beautiful lyrics that you've created in honor of that, and I really hope that, you know, it reaches the women of Iran and that they see how much we stand with them. And from there, we will move on to Eileen Fala, who's a multidisciplinary artist whose work delves into the themes of culture and gender politics and identity, deeply rooted in her Iranian background. She's dedicated much of her art to honoring those that we've lost in the fight for freedom in Iran. And Eileen, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Art often reflects the struggles for identity and freedom. How does your art express resistance, and how does it honor the courage of those fighting, you know, back in Iran?
First of all, I wanted to thank you. I'm tearing up, actually. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and it's just an honor to be with you, Natalie, your wonderful organizations, and the lovely, lovely artists sitting at this round table. And I think, you know, I think the last 2.5 years has been such a heartbreaking time for all of us, especially as some of you have shared. I was raised in the States. I left Iran when I was 7 years old, over, 42 years ago, and I've never been back. But most of my work throughout the last 3 decades has been dealing with, this real desire of wanting to understand, my background and what I come from. And being in this conversation with all of you is really feeds the soul. So I thank you for how you show up and how you create and how you've been creating over the last 2.5 years to amplify the reality of what our dear friends and some of us families have been experiencing in Iran. Natalie, to your question, I think art as defiance is one of the most powerful tools that we have as a community, as a society, because it speaks truth to power. And in what we've been experiencing for the last 44 years in Iran, authoritarian regimes, authoritarian governments always want control over your narrative. And as artists, the ability to step forward visually and say, we're going to reclaim our narrative and really the experience that we're having, and to be able to document our experience that's really been happening, let's say, for the last 2.5 years with the Zan Zendegi Azadi movement, and to be able to document our memories. And it's a really powerful way of, giving voice to the voiceless, or making the invisible visible. And that's such a powerful, we've seen powerful examples of that over the last 2.5 years. If it's been particular loved ones, that the youth that came into the streets to protest that we've ended up losing, who lost their lives, or the political prisoners that are still in prison in Iran. And I think as an artist, we become, it's almost like, there's a recognition of what's happening. And as artists, when you choose to amplify these voices, just by the act of it, you become an artistic activist. I myself have not, all of my work the last 30 years has been dealing with really political issues in Iran, because that's the reality of what we've been living through. But the art, creating the art for the last 2.5 years has really allowed me to step into my voice as an activist, as an artist, to amplify what's been taking place. And I think one of the most beautiful parts of creating as artists in Iran or outside of Iran is, this is a real force that connects community, connects us in our desire for freedom. And I think what's really been challenging to the regime is their inability to really control this. If the masses want to pour into the streets, there's cameras that can control who's coming, which direction they're coming from, how they're set up forces to be able to stop, physical movement. But the ability to, make a song and to post it on social media and have it catch on fire, or the ability for these youth who will, put on hoodies and masks and gloves to not be able to show their identity, and coming out in the middle of the night and spray painting walls with the slogans that, represent what they're feeling and what they're thinking. So it's, one of the most powerful ways of really being able to visually amplify what really matters to us right now. And I think for really specifically for the last 2.5 years, I started making imagery about a few of the people that we had lost, starting with Massa at first. And what ended up happening was, and I was posting it onto my Instagram account, families started reaching out and saying, Eileen, we just lost our son, or we just lost our cousin or our nephew. Would you be able to make, a piece of work about them? And I remember a mom saying to me, Eileen, it was such a tragedy to lose my son, and I just ask you to use really bright, vibrant colors. So every time I see his image that you've created, it brings joy to me. And so this has really just been the process for the last 2.5 years of, amplifying the voices of the ones that we've lost and all the prisoners that we still have.
It's really it's incredible what your art does for those families, especially like you said, with the mother that asked for these bright, vibrant colors, because I've said this so many times about those that we lost on October 7th. What happened to them is not who they were and not how we want to remember them. We should remember them for, the happy dancing people that they were. And it's really amazing that your art kind of gives those families a chance to look at this image and remember their loved one for the happy, strong, vibrant person that they were, not for what the regime did to them. So thank you, Eileen, for what you're doing for those families, for the amazing art that you're making. We'll show some of the images of the art, throughout your talking, and people will be able to view it online. It's beautiful and it's incredible and it's emotional. And that brings us to our next speaker, Boshra Dastornejad. Dastornejad, correct? I'm sorry. I did my best to pronounce it correctly. Boshra is an Iranian American actress, poet, and activist. Through her work in film and theater, she addresses complex social issues. Her art explores themes of freedom, resistance, and the Iranian experience. Boshra, we're honored to have you on with us today. In your films and poetry, you tackle issues of cultural and political repression. How does your art serve as a form of resistance, and how do you use it to challenge the narrative imposed on the Iranian people by their struggles for freedom?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm absolutely honored, to be here and having a chance to talk. I was born in a Baha'i family, and from my father's side, 5 generations before me, they were Baha'i, from like very early Baha'is in Iran. And as someone who's not a Jewish person and someone who is not Muslim, I was someone who was under cultural apartheid. And my families before the Islamic regime were under cultural apartheid. Like burning Baha'is' houses by people was before the Islamic revolution happened in Iran. And that is something that we've experienced that in the street, just like Jewish people who were in Iran. They feel it. When we sit on a table and we talk, we have some kind of similarities and experiences. But the difference is that I was in the Islamic Republic. I went to school. I had experiences, and I lived as the other. And then I felt many of the complex and conflicted in this culture. And what always come to my mind when I want to create something, I want to take out those conflicts. And what to me is a challenge is usually that when I want to criticize the things in this culture that I think it needs to change, I always think of, okay, my audience will be 100,000s of people of Iran. And I want them, when they read this, I don't want them see as the victim of this. They be like, oh, this person said this bad thing. See how many times I've heard it. I want them to look back into the mirror, and they look at themselves and be like, how many times did I say it to someone else? How many times I've done it? Where is this Islamic regime that I'm feeling like hating it right now? Where is inside me? Where inside me looks like this thing outside that I absolutely hate and I wish to be not here, but it never came from the moon. As someone who was a Baha'i in Iran, I see how Islamic Republic was in Iran before the Islamic Republic exists. And my biggest challenge is always to keep this mirror and be like, yes, I'm that dirty Baha'i that you call me, like even in like some years ago, in 2020, when the Me Too movement started. And I was one of the people who talked about one of the Iranian artists here. He out of nowhere called me dirty Baha'i, okay? Because he was feeling like he would gain power with using this, okay? Then it's kind of like feeling like having a apartheid culture in the back of him. It like automatically when someone says that, something which is not even related. Then to me, many of the people who were friends of both, because it's like a small community between artists, Iranian artists, they were absolutely poker faced to it, you know? And to me, it was like, wow, it's it something digged inside me, that like what I think it has changed and was past, maybe is not that past, it's living there, but in a very silent situation. And it repeated again after the October 7th when I saw what had happened with this jihadi thing that is active some part of the world. Some part of the jihadi opinions are silent, are there, and the people don't know that it exists inside them. Going back to art, not only we use art, people who have different opinion from the opposite side that we are in this fight, they use art too. My point is that how sometimes art can simplify and fetishize a very complex situation. I was seeing some of those sentences that, oh, between whenever there's a child and the gun, choose the child to defend that, like what is happening in the Palestine, pro-Palestine's opinions. And I was going back to my own memories of childhood, you know? And I was thinking, wow, you guys never experienced a 4 years old kid trying to burn your house just because you are not Muslim and they are Muslim. Then just having an age of 4 year old, like bringing it, simplifying it to just the age thing, a very complex situation like that, you know, it's just abusing art is not using art. I mean, I call it from my perspective. Or I'm going to bring another example. For example, my mom was a kid. She was, I think, 4 or 5. And one morning they come out. They used to live in a very small village in Iran, in Hazirat al-Quds, you know. And I'm not a religious person. It's just by saying it, you know, I'm just like, I feel Baha'i because of the apartheid that I've experienced. You know, I don't give up that identity because I have to give up what had happened to me. But I'm not a religious person, you know, just like, and I've learned that from my Jewish friends. And I've learned many things, how they celebrate life instead of celebrating sacrificing, you know, like to shahadat talabi, that thing. It's a completely different culture. It just shifts everything. And I've learned many things from my Iranian Jewish friends. And I looked at them and I'm like, they've done it. They came out of that mass killing, and they created something amazing. They came to the power again. We should do it. We should learn how to do it, you know. And I went to many of the Jewish gatherings, and I saw many of young generations coming. But I went to Chicago Baha'i gathering, something yearly it happens, and barely you could see some young generations of Baha'is. I know many of them live here. Why we learned to why we decided to give up this identity, because we didn't want to say that I'm religious. But I think it's more than that. It's absolutely more than that. And I have to appreciate all of my Jewish friends that they taught me how to look into it and be able to find my own identity from something that I really experienced in 5 generations. I have friends that their parents, they escaped and lived in the mountain because a lot of Muslims wanted to kill them, you know? And then to me, always the challenge was to show those many Iranians that they want to tell me, whenever that I say like, oh, as Baha'is, we experienced always what you experience right now from Jumhuriye Islami, from this regime, we've experienced it always. And I want to show you where that exactly is inside us. Then let's find that and change it. Then when we destroy this regime, we're not gonna have another something like that again under a different name. You know, I want what caused this to be destroyed. That's my challenge always as like an artist who wanted to say something to Iranian, because I still feel it.
That's such an amazing, like the perspective you have and the idea that you want to show people, you want to kind of use your art to put a mirror in front of them and show them like if that hate and if that like part of like what has created this regime is inside of them, to make sure to kill it. And another really important point you made is the idea that we're not the only ones creating art, that there's people on the other side, the people that want to create more hate in this world. They're also using art as a manipulative tactic. Um, but the way that you're creating art to kind of try to make sure that people look within themselves when they see your art, to make sure that your art is a mirror and that it's relatable. um it's really something that's so important, because it is true. I heard stories from my grandparents and my great uncles that when they would walk through the bazaar and if they would touch an apple, the merchants would say like, throw the apple away, like a dirty Jew touched it, it's dirty now, we can't sell it. This hate lived within people. The regime was within people before the regime became the regime. And I think that's such an important thing to remind people, especially when we're in such a transitional period, and that we're really hoping that in our generation we see a downfall of the regime. But in order to see a real downfall of the regime, we need to see it within the people as well, and make sure that the people are united when a new power comes in Iran.
May I
So
add one more point?
yes, of course.
Thank you so much. Also, I was talking to some of my Muslim friends here as then I told them that like your main challenge is to tell the West that I'm not terrorist. You want to tell that, okay? But have you ever seen any Muslim in anywhere in this world? They stand for the victims of the Islamic ideology. For example, some months ago that the person who was burning Quran was killed and terrored. If you ask any Muslim who's like very sweet, your grandfather, your grandma, very sweet, that they like cook things, they are like sweet grandma, your sweet grandma, okay? But if you ask them that, okay, Muslims killed one person because he burned Quran, what would they answer? They would say he shouldn't burn the Quran. No one, because this ideology deep down is that, okay, they shouldn't. If they do, we we are allowed to kill them. You don't feel like empathy for someone who was the victim of it. And nowhere in this whole world, you don't have any Muslim movement that they stand for the victims of the Islam. But they expect the Western world to separate them from the like a jihadi Islamist. That's why I say like it's like a silent jihadi ideology and the active jihadi ideology. Then it's not rest of the world to separate them. You know, if you cannot separate yourself with your action from that, how should rest of the people know that you are separate? But what I experienced as someone who was born, raised in Iran under like all the apartheid, you know, as a Baha'i, as a woman, as a queer, then I lived with all of my cells that, of course, I don't have any cells, same as the time because it's 12 years right now in the United States. But like all of my body, I felt it. I suffered it through the generations. Then when I have when like my main thing is like when they shut us down when we want to talk about it as like Islamophobia, I'm like, there is not Islamophobia. This is Islamo trauma, because we are traumatized by it. We experienced it. We suffered it from it. That word doesn't exist. Let me correct you. Then always like a debate is that, have you ever seen anywhere any Muslim stand for the victims of Islam? Because we have many of them in this world. Nowhere. Until that day, let's have this argument that there is no Islamophobia.
I had a similar experience. For 6 years I had a podcast called Persian Girl Podcast, and a lot of my followers were Muslim, and they always knew that I'm Jewish and my co-host was Jewish. And after surviving October 7th, and after we started posting about it on our podcast, we had some of our followers message us and tell us that our posts were Islamophobic. And I answered them by saying, why would you want to connect your religion with a terrorist organization? You, if anyone should want to separate the two, it should be someone who's Muslim. So I told them, posting about a terrorist organization is not Islamophobic. You should want to separate the two. And I hope that when we see a change in Iran, I hope that we see really a separation between the two. And I hope that we really see the Iranian people all look at each other as brothers and sisters.
It's going so much high. It's going like I'm seeing it like, I would say, if the Middle East people, you want to say the Muslims of Iranian are like the majority of Iranian have passed that ideology.
I always say, if there wasn't anti-Semitism, I don't think the Jewish community would be as close as it is, and all consider each other brothers and sisters no matter what background we come from. And I think in Iran we're seeing that same thing because the Iranian people have been put under this pressure for so long. I think it's finally going to bring this new beautiful Iran where we're all really brothers and sisters and we all really come together, the Baha'is, the Zoroastrians, the Jews, the Muslims, the atheists, all of the Iranians. And I pray that, you know, all of you, there's so many artists that are really doing their best to try to make that a reality. And I want to thank all of you so much for the incredible art that you shared with us today. It's been so powerful and so insightful and so inspiring. And it's clear that art isn't just a form of expression, it's a powerful tool for resistance, for survival, for liberation. And really, all of you, your courage gives us hope for a better future. And before we end, I want to take a moment to honor all the brave and incredible artists within Iran who are risking their lives every day to fight for the freedom of expression. We see you and we love you and we stand with you. Your artistry and your defiance are a beacon of hope, and we will continue to fight alongside you for a free Iran. There's truly some incredible artists that I messaged, hoping that maybe they'd be able to speak on this event, not knowing that they were currently within Iran, and they answered me and they said that just by creating the art I'm creating, I'm risking my life here in Iran, and that if I was to come on the event, I would be risking my life 10 times over. And they said that we can't make it, but they send all of us their love, and they see the art that you guys are making and they appreciate the way you're standing up for them outside of Iran. And I just want them, I hope that maybe they see this and they see how much we love them and we stand up for them and how much we appreciate them for risking their lives, for doing things that we have the freedom of doing. You know, we don't have to think twice before we write a song, or before we paint a painting, or before we do a mural, or before we write a play. And they are literally putting their lives at risk just by doing the same things that we don't have to think twice about. And they're really incredible, and I want to, you know, take that moment to honor them. And also to our audience, if you're an artist like the incredible individuals that we had on today, and you're using your art to fight for a cause, we would love to hear from you. We're always looking to collaborate with more passionate artists for future events. So thank you again to all of you beautiful artists for joining us today. And let's continue to amplify the voices of those who need it most and keep fighting for the freedom of expression and the rights of all people. Thank you.